Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Sunday, September 29th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Iowa game in 6 days, the game against Michigan in 62 days. The Ohio State Buckeyes dusted off Michigan's, traditionally little brother, I guess, on Saturday night, 38-7 over the Michigan State Spartans. Guess I should be careful saying that. They honored Mark D'Antonio, and we know what happens right after Pride.
Yes.
We know what happens there, but that's okay. So Ohio State 38-7, not necessarily a smooth ride from beginning to end. Joined by Kevin Noon of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Kevin, before we get into some of the stuff that had people a little concerned in the first half before the Buckeyes kind of kicked things into gear later on, we got to talk about Jeremiah Smith. Holy Moses. Every week it feels like you see something you've never seen before. This was another game where you just saw a bunch of stuff you hadn't seen before.
When Jeremiah had his two amazing receptions in a small window of time, I don't know if people have seen the GIF file of Joe Rogan at a UFC thing. That was me grabbing Tony like, did that just really happen? Did that really just happen? Because we know that during practice, the receivers love to mess around and catch the ball one-handed or whatever, but that's certainly not being covered and not in, a high leverage situation like that. But all Jeremiah Smith does is just amaze people. That's what he does. And he is moving up the record books quickly for output of a true freshman at Ohio State. And he is going to rewrite a lot of records before his total of 3 years at Ohio State are over. And if I'm part of the Ohio State collective, I'm making sure that I'm passing the hat right now to reward, because it's not pay for play necessarily, but to reward him because he is every bit as good as advertised, maybe better.
Yeah, he has lived up to all of the expectations, the outsized, ridiculous expectations already. 5 catches for 83 yards, 1 touchdown, also had a touchdown on the ground, 19 yards. Just another week, four games in, and he's scored touchdowns in all of them. He's scored multiple touchdowns in a couple of them. He's already tied Garrett Wilson for most touchdowns receiving as a true freshman, both 5. Think about how good Garrett Wilson's true freshman season was. It is literally still September, and he's already tied Garrett Wilson's record. So that is one big takeaway from that game. Jeremiah Smith, good at football. Another takeaway, Emeka Egbuka showed for some resilience. He did not have the greatest game for stretches, had a couple drops, but he also bounced back, targeted 11 times, 7 catches, 96 yards, had a touchdown reception. It wasn't a great performance from beginning to end, but that was a really veteran performance where it didn't necessarily start great, but he saw things through.
He's so smooth out there, and you want to try and work through those drops. Maybe some miscommunications as well, but he is also very good at football. And when you think about that 1-2 punch of Jeremiah and Emeka, and we're not even getting into the point of throwing in Carnell Tate and others as well, it's just really amazing. And it makes a quarterback like Will Howard look better. And that's not to say that Will Howard had a bad game. I mean, he made a couple bad decisions. He had an interception. He had a second one that absolutely should have been an interception. But, he goes 21-31, 68% passer, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He did what needed to be done in the game. Oh, and he also rushed for a touchdown, which for everybody who pays attention to my three shot story, that was my 1-pointer. So now I have a grand total of 2 points.
Not so easy to predict things boldly, but you succeeded on Saturday night. So well done on that front. Well done also to TreVeyon Henderson, who continues to have a really light workload. He feels like he's sort of semi-retired or something. 7 carries, average 9.9 yards per carry again, 37 yard long. He has just been such a boon to this Ohio State offense because they've not had to lean on him, which is great for him because it keeps him healthier, fresher, longer into the season. But man, he had 12 yards per carry last week, and it's like, well, what's he going to do to follow this up? Merely 9.9 yards per carry on Saturday night.
Yeah, he went from 6 carries against Marshall to 7 carries against Michigan State. So there is going to be a lot of tread on those tires when you get into November and maybe the weather isn't as great, and certainly when the competition is getting higher, and then, carry that into December and January and, what could be a long season. But TreVeyon looks really good. Scary moment. He did get dinged up, had to visit the injury tent, but, he wasn't out for long, came back out. Again, not necessarily getting a ton of carries, but that's just a luxury they have because of the way the offense is going, having Quinshon Judkins. And then even later in a game, you're not stuck having to run your 1 and 1A running back when you have guys like James Peoples out there that can sit there and carry the mail late in a game to get you across the finish line.
So those were some of the standout players on offense for the Buckeyes. Now we got to talk a little bit about the defense. And the defense, it feels like there's some concern and some consternation around the Ohio State defense, which they allowed 7 points, a whopping 7 points. So you kind of have to take a little bit of everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. But you go through the yards per play by quarter, and there's some, I don't know if they're red flags, but they're orange at least. First quarter giving up 7.9 yards per play. Second quarter, 6.6 yards per play. Once you get past halftime, Jim Knowles gets him in the locker room, makes his adjustments. Third quarter, 1.7 yards per play. And then the fourth quarter was kind of irrelevant. It was 3.4, but it was, kind of garbage time at that point. How big of a concern is the slow start that the Ohio State defense seems to get off to almost more often than not at this point?
I agree. I'm not going to say it's a red flag, but I think an orange flag is very apropos. Linebackers on the whole kind of had some struggles. I think they're still trying to figure some things out there. I think that there's some issues with just the way that they approach some things. I think Ohio State did a good job of speeding up Aiden Childs by getting some pressure in there. But then there were other times where I don't know exactly what they were doing, and really kind of what helped Ohio State win this game by 31 and hold Michigan to 7 is Michigan State was its own worst enemy with some turnovers in the red zone and things of that nature. And that in Ohio State also had a very great 4th and 1 stop early in the game where they Cody Simon stood up the ball carrier for Michigan State and forced a turnover. So I think there are things that they're going to have to work out. Iowa is not necessarily going to be a great test for what Ohio State's defense is per se, because all Iowa is Caleb Johnson running the ball. Mm-hmm. That is all. Aiden McNamara not getting it done right now. Brian Ferentz is working at Target or something. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't think that they've taken any steps there. But I'm just warning people: don't bite the cheese if Ohio State holds Iowa to no points or whatever, because Iowa is just not really a true indication of a Big Ten offense.
And so there were some concerns on the defense, especially the front seven, but boy, the back end of that Ohio State defense continues to be really good. Davis Egbuka didn't have a great night.
He had a rough night.
But Denzel Burke had an interception. You had a forced fumble by Lathan Ransom, a forced fumble by Jordan Hancock running a ball carrier way down the field to make a really, really nice play. And we finally got the Caleb Downs experience. It took 4 games, but you saw Caleb Downs. He led the team in tackles with 6, 3 solos, 1 tackle for loss, some big hits. That felt like the first time it was kind of like, welcome to the Ohio State season, Caleb Downs. Not that he's played poorly. You really haven't noticed him the way you thought you would. You noticed him on Saturday night.
Yeah, and a couple of those Downs tackles were, if he didn't make that, the guy's running for 30 yards. So he really flashed. I certainly enjoyed watching him play last year for Alabama, and I think that on Saturday night, that was the closest that we've been to seeing that guy. And again, it's not, Caleb Downs just hasn't been playing well. No, that's not the case. This is just the first opportunity that he's been put in that position, and he's certainly made the most of it.
And we'll touch real quickly on special teams, just because we talked about special teams a bunch last week when it was not good. No problems with special teams. No penalties, no missed kicks, no kickoffs out of bounds. That's what you want to see from the Ohio State special teams. The Ohio State special teams doesn't need to win games for them generally. Maybe in the postseason, a game comes down to a kick or something.
You like seeing them kick a field goal. I mean, you don't want to kick a field goal, but I think that, you look at how the season ended against Georgia the one year and they weren't able to get the 50-yarder. I mean, they're not kicking 50-yarders at this point. Now they are 2 for 2 on the season in field goals. 4 games, 2 field goals. They're generally not settling for 3.
Yeah, so they're kind of checking that box. So that was good news for the Buckeyes as well. So we will have coverage. We're headed home from Michigan State on Sunday. We'll have plenty of coverage coming up all week long as things get a little tougher next weekend. This was just a little bit of a step forward for the Buckeyes with that 38-7 win over Michigan State. Things are going to get a little tougher with those Iowa Hawkeyes coming to town. We're only a week away from the Oregon game. Feels like we've been talking about that all year and how much everyone's looking forward to it. It is finally almost here. Got the Iowa game coming up this week. Going to be a lot of stuff to talk about at BuckeyeHuddle.com, and we would love to have you there to talk about it all with us. That's where Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team. Mark covers recruiting. Got our whole team of X's and O's gurus there to make you a smarter football fan. Also, really fun and active community on the Huddle Board, presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. That is all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Right now, we are running a flash sale, just $4.99 for your first month. Get access to all of that great content and much more, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. So sign up today. Get a full month. Check it out. Make sure you want to see if you want to hang out there longer. We think you might just want to do that. There's a lot of great stuff there, and this is a great place to. You like talking about Ohio State football? That's a great place to do it.
We like talking about it too.
We do. So we like talking about it with you. So join us there, and also join us at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Lots of content there as well. We'll have more of our post game coverage from the Michigan State game. Tony and I did about an hour and a half of a Buckeye Weekly live post game show as part of about a 2.5 hour live post game show. A lot of stuff to talk about in the wake of that Ohio State win over Michigan State. Live interviews with Ohio State head coach Ryan Day, Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Cody Simon, Jordan Hancock. A lot of guys, a lot of content there. That's all at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.